Business, woo, and you is the topic of this conversation. Think about this. Are you full woo, woo curious, or just confused? What do you think, Gail?
So I used to be confused about the woo. In fact, I used to hide the woo. And then I became woo and embraced it. Therefore, I had to hide being a business person. And it's so ridiculous. When I embraced the woo, if you will, um, I realized that we're all woo, that we all have this ability to get into flow.
So let's think about what is woo. So I'm dividing it into WOO woo and then WU woo. So that's kind of a before and after. How do you define woo?
Oh, I define woo as my ability to trust my instinct and maybe even my pre-instinct, if you will. And regardless of how ridiculous it might seem, take that appropriate action. And usually when I look back, I see how much logic that choice was. But if I didn't take that choice, I would lose out on an amazing opportunity of growth and prosperity.
By that definition, Larry Ellison, Elon Musk, and Mark Andreessen are woo.
Yes, as it
WU, not WOO, pre-woo. They're WU woo because they go against the grain. That's woo.
right. And and I enjoy being judged now. Where there was a time my sister sat across the table from me and called me a witch, right? Because I knew something that I should not in a million years know. And I just laughed and I said, "Thank you."
Steve Jobs said, I couldn't see the dots connect until I was done. And I look backwards. Steve Jobs, when he got fired by the corporate bots at Apple, and the company got all screwed up because no one in the company was woo. Steve Jobs came back and said, "Hey, let's have four products and not let the retailers control the company anymore and tell us what to do." And everybody said, "No, you can't give up that much revenue." Well, he did. That's full woo, WU. There's a misunderstanding, particularly in Silicon Valley, around what woo is because it's seen as like you're a witch or you're doing astral projection or you're like chanting in a drum circle at Burning Man.
And yet, I'm glad you brought up Burning Man. Google has been known to go to Burning Man to find their leaders.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, it's true, right? And so what are they looking for? They're looking for, and I'll go back to that word flow,
Mm,
because that is an altered state where a common desire, a common goal leads the team as though they were one amoeba without a leader.
yeah.
That's woo.
So I want to talk about flow a little bit. So I look at flow in maybe three stages. So the first stage of flow for me was enjoyment. So all of a sudden I got out of struggle, effort, and challenge. The entrepreneur mindset and beliefs is I got to struggle. I got to make an effort. I got to be up for the challenge. That's like beginner stuff. That's considered advanced in the confusing world of entrepreneur land. What that leads to is releasing that, lowering that parking brake of that belief, and starting to enjoy what you're doing. The second phase I found is conditional flow based on purpose. And that means if I'm in my zone of genius, I'm in flow. In other words, it's conditional based on doing what I love. The third phase is what I call fluidity, which means it doesn't matter what I'm doing. We're connected as a group, and this is Navy SEAL stuff. The Navy SEALs were not in their Zone of genius, in other words, I'm doing what I love when the airplane crashes, but they're fine because they're working together.
You know, I so I wrote a book about flow. I do a presentation on flow, and it's because I'm fascinated with flow, with connecting. Again, looking back, I've seen moments in my life where I totally leaned into flow because I didn't know any better.
Well, that's usually comes I discovered all this stuff out of desperate pain, right?
Right? And let's get to the pain. Abraham Hicks has a session where someone said to her, asked, "Why am I do I have to go through such pain before I manifest or before I," and the response was, "Because it takes you getting to that level of pain before you finally give up, before you finally release resistance." It's the resistance, and that's what woo is to me. It's lacking, letting go of the resistance, letting go of my preconceived ideas, letting go of my judgment, and just doing what, and I want to get before the feeling, just move because it's the right thing to do and because there's a knowing. And we all have that.
Everybody has it. That's W-U woo, like Wu-Tang Clan. W-O-O woo is woo curious, trying to figure it out, or full woo, but hiding in the closet because you're still afraid of being completely unique in whatever your industry is, because you don't want to get thrown out of it. Because there's a risk you could get thrown out. Now, one more thing, real quick, about Larry Ellison. So I was listening on Founders Misfit feed to the Larry Ellison story, and Larry Ellison had a moment. I think it was one of the first moments in his life, probably, of doubt and confusion when Oracle collapsed on him because he had to restate earnings, because they were recording revenue that didn't exist. Um, and he's like, "Oh my God, is this going to work?" And he got out of that in like 30 minutes. That's full woo, W-U woo. Larry Ellison would never see himself as a woo person, but he is. He just doesn't understand. It was the collapse and the surrender that led to Oracle working.
And I believe Steve Jobs stepped into his zone of genius because he got fired and had to give up ownership and explore who he is
Yeah.
and lean into it, right? And so and I love that word, lean into it. So many people think that when you're leaning into something, you're leaning into pain and into agony, and that you can't get to the other side without going through the pain. The pain is the resistance of the experience. You can
I
have
think,
go ahead.
well, one of my biggest moments was back in, what are we, 2024? Back in 2022, I had a moment where I saw a mechanism. So I started calling it the pain joy mechanism. And what happened was I was going into the pain closet. And on the other side, I found furry monsters like Monsters Inc. So there was Scully, not something trying to kill me from my childhood. And I realized, oh, suffering is optional. And I also realized the more pain, the better.
And by leaning in and not resisting, it's fleeting and momentarily there, because, and again, this is from my experience, right? It's taking the dive and the dive and the dive, getting better at accepting what's happening, and then putting that pain, that experience on the right timeline. Okay, this happened when I was 8. I don't have to experience it now and lose this now experience, but I can take the lesson from that. I can take the gift from that, and I can put forgiveness for myself and the experience. And when you do that, when I do that, I experience the now.
Yeah.
Why lose the now experience? Why spend all of my time in something that is over with and cheat myself of this very moment? That's flow, being in this very moment. That is woo.
Yes, W-U Woo. And if you look at people like Walt Disney, if you look at Thomas Edison, if you look at Leonardo da Vinci, all these characters from history, that's what they did. So they released themselves from the belief systems of the society, stepped outside of it, went back into it, and created something original and ignored what everyone else said when they said, "Oh, that's stupid. That'll never work." Um, so what I think happens often is uh, if you think about physics. So I think what you're talking about, I call it the razor's edge. So living on the razor's edge is living in the creator cycle. So it's a black hole where there's a collapse. The black hole magnet energy is sucking you into the center of it. And you can't bring suitcase and baggage through the black hole into the other side. Most people will not allow themselves to be in the suspension state where they're going through the black hole and they'll never get to the other side, which is transformational alchemical change, and the white hole experience, which is the leap. And you can't go back once you go through, but you can't bring the baggage through. You got to release the baggage, put down the bags.
And this enhances my ability to have a creative business, something different than what the mainstream is. Now, I want to bring this to a more logical, third dimensional experience for folks.
Yeah.
First of all, the fear of the pain is as a result of years of Freudian psychology.
Yeah.
And, I've had people that I've spoken with who want to work with me, but then say, I've been going to shrinks my entire life. I can't deal with the pain anymore. I'm sorry, but I can't do it. And they don't understand when I say, but my process is not that pain because that's all they know.
Yeah.
And therefore, the ability to connect and go from WOO to WU is blocked by this belief that I have to feel this horrible pain. You do have to experience, but from a perspective of no pain, from a perspective of learning, understanding, forgiving, placing it where it belongs, and getting into the now.
Yeah.
It's a different process.
It's the opposite. And I think Freud did more to hurt the society's understanding of what works than anybody else in
Yeah.
psychology. And Jung tried to talk to him and said, "You're missing it, man. You're
Yes.
missing." And he didn't get it because he hadn't done it himself. Jung had, and then Jung had to separate from him, and Freud got more popular because intellectuals like mind confusion. And that's mind
Yes.
confusion is this rumination. We used to call it in the groups I did years ago, we called it wound worshiping.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And um, and many people that I've gotten to work with, the first thing we have to work on is to stop identifying with the pain. Now,
Right?
you
It's not
you
me.
know, a year ago, I was going through chemo, and a year ago, I fought the belief that I had whatever. I was given a diagnosis from them, right? I was given options from them. By not identifying, I am, at the end, I had an oncologist go, "I don't know what you did."
Right, they don't know because they don't
They don't know.
understand it, even though
Right.
we know how it works, and we've known how it works for, like, 10,000 years of human experience. This is not new. We didn't create this system. We just happen to live here.
Right, and now is a beautiful time for entrepreneurs, for career-minded people, for, at-home parents, for anyone to step into who we are. And
Woo is
it's
who I am.
woo is
It
who
is
we
it
are.
is who I am. Now, some people do astral projection. Some people do raise the kundalini energy. Some people are going to do ayahuasca weekends and have a experience.
Oh.
And some people are going to do drum circles and run around like witches on the beach. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. It's just not the point.
I made a comment the other day, and I'm actually gonna be doing a blog about it, and it's breakthroughs are temporary, growth is permanent.
Yeah.
And you're talking about breakthroughs, which are WOO,
Yeah.
versus growth, which is WU.
So let's talk about that. So what is WU? So here, I'm going to read something from the LinkedIn and we can talk about it. So get ready for each step you take to be in fresh powder. That's the power of woo, but it starts with what many call woo, WOO. And many say, I don't believe in that. There's nothing to believe in. It's not relevant, even relevant. WOO and believing in it is not relevant. What's relevant is take the step in the fresh powder and don't copy anybody. Don't follow the leaders. Forget the social media influencer economy. The social media influencer economy was what screwed me up because I'm thinking, well, I got to be like them. How do I do it? And they say, well, here's my way of doing it. And I'm thinking, well, I did it 2
And it
years
didn't
now, two
work?
and a half years, and I'm like, this isn't working.
Have you, any of you felt that? How we've all had that experience where we've been told at some point in our life, "This is the path," and we've taken the path and it's been wrong for us, whatever that is, in whatever capacity. We've also all had the experience where we have had a brilliant insight that we don't know where it came from, and someone has said, "That's amazing, let's do it." Where did that come from? That came from allowing a resistance. You're in a state of WU, right? You're in a state of flow. You're in a state of connectivity. You're in a state of trust and belief. You're in a state of non-judgment. And whatever got you there does not matter. You've experienced it. What we want to say is we can get there intentionally and use that to move our life, our business, and ourselves forward.
Yeah, this is where Darwin got it wrong, and he's not wrong. It's just a limited perspective because he didn't go all the way woo WU. I think I don't know. I don't know Darwin, but I what I do know is it's a limited way of thinking. And if I think about a Sadhguru, what he's saying is we can speed up our evolution. We don't have to wait for the we're not fruit flies. Darwin did all his experiments on fruit flies, and he said, well, human beings are like fruit flies. Um, I'd like to look more into Darwin at some point because maybe he did evolve his views, but the society misunderstood him. That's possible too. But um, the we can evolve ourselves and make a decision. And it's important for entrepreneurs because if you're really trying to do something original that's a permanent solution to the money problems, to the success problems, to the how do I find my own way and liberate myself from the giant hairballs of the corporate structures and the red, being in the matrix, and you want to get out of the matrix. So you can't follow the leaders. You can learn the principles, but you got to bring the woo into your business, the WU into your business. You've got to do that. And that's really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that I don't take practical, logical steps, right? It means I take aligned logical steps.
Yeah.
I take logical steps that are within the framework of my values, that are within the framework of my desires, within the framework of who I am. But if you don't know who you are, if you know who you are told you are, then it's difficult for you to get there.
I think this is where the disconnect between the mind people, like the technology industry, the Silicon Valley people, and the manifestation crowd comes. That division is based on confusion, I think. So, what's going on, I think, like you're saying, is spirituality and manifestation is not woo. It's practical, concrete, and specific action connected into creative vision.
You know that I work weekly with a bunch of very successful entrepreneurs who are exploring how to take this woo and increase their life experience with their spouses, with their business, with their clients, right? They're learning how to step into that. And some of the things that have been coming out of that group is so magical, so amazing. And there's extremes going on. One is killing it, killing it in her business. She's like, holy crap. And the other is struggling because the mind keeps getting in its way.
Yeah,
She's leaning in. She's like, I don't know, I'm going to do it. Holy crap. He's like, eh. you know, um, he held on to a bad client because he was afraid of losing $1.5 million.
yeah,
Right? And it ended up costing him money to hang on, and
of
he
course.
finally walked away.
Of
He
course, that's
fi
what Steve Jobs figured out. He's like, all right, I'll let my revenue collapse to build the kernel back because he knew. How did he know? He knew. He is the only one who knew because
right.
that's how woo works. It's the razor's edge, meaning I got to listen to myself. And I want to
And you
read
can't
something.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, one more thing. So
Yeah.
one more person, and this is like concrete evidence, not just words from you and me. So I have another friend that you've heard of that I had coffee with the other day, and he says, I closed my business down, a very profitable business. Had a court case, had a wife that was kind of angry because was told this is what I need to do. A year and a half later, he's got 50 employees, and he said it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar business. No apparent reason, he closes one down and opens another because he knew it was the right thing to do.
And this is what Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. This is what Bob Proctor. This is what Rhonda Byrne in The Secret. This is what all these people, Les Brown from the stage, this is what they're talking about. And I think the adaptation of these things on like YouTube teachings around spirituality and manifestation from people who haven't done any of this stuff really, maybe they have manifested some success and money, but there's no context around it in terms of what you're saying. And what I see often is, I wrote down, you're going in the right direction either way, no matter how you're doing it, but there's no reason to hold back or pay for programs that are well marketed that never work.
Never work. And here's food for thought. I mentioned it earlier today. The moment mainstream knows about a process, it's already old
Done.
news because someone who connected WU to their business created that process for them, and it worked for them,
Yeah.
not for you.
Yeah. And what's happening is, I don't think it's malicious. I think what's going on is they think they know how they got there and they don't, because they're not. The only way to understand any of this is to have enough experience with yourself to understand laws, principles, and mechanisms that always work and have always worked and will always work. But if you abstract it based on, oh, I got there through marketing, or I got there through this, or I got there through that. Other people can too. You're completely misunderstanding what happened.
And I have been asked at your most successful time, how did you get there? And I can honestly say I have no idea.
Well, that's why 5 steps to this, 7 steps to that, and a magic doohickey you can put on your website to automatically increase conversions. From Dan Kennedy is completely right if you're marketing, because it's harder to sell, but it's completely wrong in terms of reality. That stuff's not going to work for the people who buy it.
And society is becoming savvy enough to know you are sending me this email because it's a funnel. You are inviting me into a free training group because it's a funnel. You,
Yeah.
so they're suspicious. You know, guys, I'm not a funnel. If you want to work with me, you got to pay.
Well, let's talk about that because a lot of people are going to listen and say, "What are they selling?" Well, we're selling something,
We
but we're
are.
doing it for everyone, and it's constructed in a way for not just the people who are going to be in the high-end private mastermind group paying 150 grand a year. I wouldn't charge 150 grand a year to anybody. It's too much money for anything, really. So we've created something Gail and I call Business Woo and You, and it's part of the so the whole point is embrace your business, turn WOO woo into full-blown woo WU, and open up your road less traveled to success. How are we doing that? Well, we're not funneling people into it at all, because what we're saying is we have an entrepreneur experience environment that's available to anyone, and you can even come in and pay for it through bringing other people in. So if you can't afford it, we're giving you a way to come into the private inner sanctum of the top people, because there's no such thing as top people. It doesn't exist. It's ridiculous. It's not real. I have no answer, and Gail has no answer for anybody else. We are not at the top of social media mountain building a follower relationship to funnel people into our program so we can stand on the stage and talk at them and help them figure out how to do it. No, you're going to figure out how to do it as an equal because you have all the answers already.
But we know how to ask the right questions, hold space, create exploratory exercises to help you get to the core of who you are and understand that you are your product.
Oh,
You,
oh, you need a product? I thought you could just have a funnel and bring people in and make money and teach other people how to have a funnel and bring people in and have money, and then they can teach other people how to become influencers on social media.
we
Isn't that
can
enough? Do you need a product?
until the triangle is full. When you're at the bottom of the triangle, then it
Yeah, if
doesn't
you're at the
work
bottom of
anymore.
the triangle, you're gonna get crushed.
Right. And
It's
that's what's happening to people.
yeah.
How many people have you spoken to that have said, I can't spend any more money? I have spent X number of dollars on programs that don't work.
What's your number?
My
I
number,
I
I,
ask people that.
yeah, what's your number? It's over 100,000.
Mine's 150 grand.
Yeah.
And I already know the answer, and have since I was, like, 19 years old.
Yeah.
But when I came out in social media in 2020, I was like, "Oh, this is new. They're doing cool stuff." And I jumped all in. 150 grand later, a couple years later, I was like, "Oh, that was all wrong."
So, and I'll give you an example for, first of all, I was told to stop Whoa. That was one of the, things that I paid for.
In corporate,
Uh,
when you were in corporate?
No, this is when I was
Oh,
no, as a coach, stop the woo. People don't
oh,
understand
got
the
it.
woo. You gotta stop the woo, right? I was also told, here are your business colors. You need to dress in your business colors. You need a suit. You need heels. You need blah, blah. I did that. It was horrible.
You're not being yourself.
Oh my God, it was horrible. And so now if I'm presenting, I have jeans, flip-flops, and a t-shirt. Why? That's who I am. That's who
So
I
we're
am.
We're 30 minutes in. If you want to know more about what's going on, we don't sell anything. We don't talk about it. We don't explain anything because it's impossible because I don't know what your experience is going to be, and neither does Gail. So hang out with us for 5 days. Go to redpillpathway.com/events, claim your guest pass, and show up. If you're not ready for that, go to the content page, which is up here, redpillpathway.com/content, and you know, figure it
Check
out
us out.
yourself if you want to do it that way. Or you can come in and at some point we're going to ask you to pay us.
It is
Thanks.
a business.
It is a business.
Right?
Um, any final thoughts? And I'm going to stay on for another few minutes.
Sure. The final thought is, what's going on in Red Pill and what's going on in my programs, what's going on in Larry's programs. It's experiential, and that's why we can't tell you how you're going to experience our programs. I know that when I present mine, every single person in the room has a different experience, and it's unique, and it's what they need at the moment.
And if you want to experience that, Gail has a weekly group. It's part of the 5-day guest pass. It doesn't cost anything, called Next Level Living. I've been in it, and my life has changed completely because of Gail and that group.
Come join us if you like woo or
Or even if you're
business
just
or
woo
both.
curious.
Come hang out. Larry, you go do your wrap up.
Thanks. All right, there we go. So I'll let you know what's going on here around where we're at. So we've got the campus finished, and we're inviting people in now. And the way we're doing it is come in for 5 days, and the events page there is where you claim your guest pass, and you can see what's going on for the week, and just come in, and you can come in for 5 days and go to anything, and huddle with people and huddle with us on the campus. We don't use Zoom. We use a video metaverse technology. There's no avatars in it because I don't like avatars because I want to see the person and you want to see other people and we want to connect. That's the secret weapon is the group. In other words, the full community connecting and knowing each other. There's no funnel like a school system or this community is around shared desire, not pain of don't have enough money, don't have enough clients, don't have enough. Even if you don't, that's not the point. The point is the shared desire around wanting a better entrepreneur experience. And that's the prerequisite. You just have to want a better entrepreneur experience or be curious about how to get one. That's it. If you're an entrepreneur, coach, or service provider, just grab a guest pass and come in. The other thing we're doing right now is forming partnerships. I think what I saw in the guru industry, the how to improve yourself industry, is partnerships on the stage of the elite in the market, the celebrities who are partnering together and then co-marketing their programs. So they're marketing each other and they're forming a more robust product by being together. So I think those are good principles, but they don't apply well for me because there's a stage and an audience. So the audience essentially is being taught to be like the people on the stage. So the attraction mechanism is, hey, I'm on the stage. Look at me. I got all this money. You could be like me. I got this great life. Look at my body on the beach or whatever the thing is. It doesn't matter. Look at me in my drum circle smiling. And I got here because I was in pain. And then they got the whole story and the attractive character was created from a marketing perspective. Nothing wrong with any of that. Except for me, it doesn't work. Now, if it's working for you being in the audience with a bunch of celebrities because it makes you feel good, do it. I don't want to anymore. And I don't want to create that. We got enough of elite. We got enough top 4%, top 1% stuff. And what happens in these groups is the masses are basically given something automated like a course or a community on School or Mighty Networks or Circle or something where they don't get access to the people at the top. You have to pay to the 150 grand or whatever to get in the private room. So it's like that episode of Frasier, if you've seen Frasier years ago, where Niles and Frasier go to a nightclub and they keep paying more to get into the inner secret room. And then they realize, oh, there's another even more inner secret room where the even cooler people are. And then all of a sudden at the end of the episode, they end up in an alley behind the nightclub and their pockets are empty and they feel embarrassed. Well, I think that's what happens. So we don't want that to happen. So you get to be part of the cool kids because there aren't any cool kids. There's just people who are sharing their experience. So you're an expert already. You're not coming in as an expert. You're coming in as someone who's trying to do something. And there is something in this group to teach you how to figure that out for yourself in everything, because this is a group of experts, people who have had enough experience like me with business development, market authority planning, with being on the red pill pathway outside of the matrix, working through that, lowering the parking brakes with what I call the action library, and then going faster because you've lowered the parking brakes and what I call the vision accelerator. I got everything to do that. And it's the opposite of what's being taught from the marketing, social media influence perspective, or the perspective of, I've got to go out and close and sell. Now, the actions are still related to what's being taught in those areas, but the intention in the way of doing it is very different. And that's what we're doing. And what I've learned is I can't do this myself because I'll either overwhelm people and they'll get sick of me, or they'll make me the guru and want me to have the answers. That's not good. Or they need other things too. And that's why we've got Brian every day with the Invincibility Dojo. So that's about releasing fear and becoming invincible and feeling that you do that every day. That's why we've got Gail with Next Level Living on a weekly basis to reduce your attachments to the things you believe and the energetic kind of releases that are needed to get into fluidity. First flow, first enjoyment, then conditional flow, and then fluidity eventually. Sharon Valenti, who's an expert in belief systems, helped me. I've been working with Sharon for 2 years to release my limiting beliefs through experiencing them and seeing the truth, not working on my mindset. I don't work on my mindset anymore. I experience the truth of what I believe and say, well, that's not true. And it releases over time. And that takes some courage, but it's easier than working on yourself all the time, which is, started calling, like Gail and I talked about, wound worshiping. And then we've got some new founding members. Lona Fink, we worked out something yesterday. She's going to be doing it every week, and I'm going to read it here. It's called the Clarity Path Workshop. She's helping me get into clarity because my content page is almost impossible to navigate unless somebody's really into it. She's going to help organize that, but she can help organize anything. So it's about get clear, concise, and impactful in 3 stages. Know your desired impact, get clear on your communications, whatever that is, on a website or speaking at an event, or talking to your family even. Third, clarify your empowering message. And this approach works for operations, communications, and connection. And then I'm going to add one more thing too, where Gail and Lona are going to do an event at night around freedom from corporate, because they both did it. They both did it. They got freedom from corporate, and it's possible today. And you may not have a choice because you may get kicked out. Or Amazon says, come back to the corporate office, and you feel like, I don't want to do that. Well, you don't have to just make the leap into entrepreneurship, and be careful because people will promise you can become a coach. And then all of a sudden they're turning you into a marketer or a social media influencer or a networker. There's another way to do that, and they're going to be workshopping people through that. And I think it's called Cut the Corporate Cord, something like that is what it's named. So anyways, all of this stuff's available. Don't make any decisions. You don't need to know more about any of it, frankly. Just come. So redpillpathway.com/events, hang out with us and make your own decision about